So this is the Samsung Z Flip 5, and honestly, I love this phone. I have been using it as my daily driver for a week now, and I have had a lot of people who have iPhones want to switch over to this right here just because of everything it's capable of. So stay tuned, because in this video, I'm going to be talking about the pros and the cons when it comes to this phone, and if you should get one in 2023. Anyways, let's get right into it. First thing I want to talk about when it comes to the Z Flip 5 is obviously the front screen. Now this is one of the main reasons why I got this phone and why you'd probably get it too. Now in the past I did have, I believe, the Z Flip 3, and if you want to see a review on that, go ahead, hit the button right there and you can watch it. And overall that phone was good. The only thing I hated about it was that the screen was so small, and also the fact that the battery died very quickly. And with this phone, the battery's pretty decent, and the front screen obviously has so much more you can do. Now, when it comes to this front screen, I love it because you can customize this widget on the front to anything that you want. And for example, this is the front widget I decided to go with. It has the time, it has the weather, a lot of good information, as well as a picture of me and my wife right there, which looks really good. But if you want to, you can always just kind of hold down on here, and then you can, like, I can do this one instead, or I can also just go to one of the presets and then just keep it that way. And some of them even have like little animations too, like this one. And so this is something else I love about this phone is, yes, the selfie camera in the front is really sick, but with the old Z Flips, whenever you would take a picture, it only came out as a square. Now you actually have the option to go through the top and pick what kind of photo you want, whether it's a 1x1, 9x16, or a 3x4. 9x16 is probably the best for Instagram and, you know, stories and things like that. And honestly, I love the fact that you can do this now, because before on the old flips, you weren't able to do that. And then you would just have square pictures on your stories and it would look kind of weird. So honestly, that is one of the things that nobody really talks about that I love about this phone. And on top of the camera and on top of customization, you can also add whatever app that you want to using this thing called Good Lock. You just have to download it from the Samsung store. But honestly, it is a game changer, especially when it comes to this phone. So what you're gonna do is you can install any apps. For example, I have Spotify, I have my messages, I also have my Starbucks app because I order Starbucks a lot. So I can literally just go on my app, scroll down, and pretty much get my usual coffee and a burrito. I can also go ahead and, if I want to, I can do Google Meet. And Google Meet on this phone is so convenient because, one, the camera quality is amazing because you're using the front two cameras, so the quality when you're talking to someone is going to look great, and the screen is big enough to where when you're talking to the other person, it just looks really good. And I honestly love using Google Meet or Zoom on the front of this screen because you're not carrying a big phone around trying to like get a good angle using the 12 megapixel camera on the front, which is the selfie camera. You're actually using a back camera that also just looks really crisp, and you're only holding a very small phone. Now, one of the cons I don't like about this is the fact that, yes, you know, the bezel's right here, but just the fact that my fingerprints on this thing, whenever I use it, it's like a fingerprint magnet. So I'm consistently just having to like wipe it off. And I mean, it doesn't look too bad, especially when the screen's on. Like, the fingerprints don't get in the way too much unless you got super greasy fingers. But that's probably one of the main cons when it comes to the front, but that's the only one that I can think of. And one of my favorite things about the front display is just the way Spotify looks. Whenever you're playing music or songs, you can just see your song right there along with the time card, and it just looks really good. Being at the gym and then kind of scrolling through this, looking for a good song, setting it down, and then boom, or just putting it in my pocket. Another thing I love when it comes to the overall design is, yes, you probably heard it before, the actual fact that this is completely closed and there is no gap in the middle. But I just love the way the sides look too. Honestly, it just looks really sleek and modern. I have not been using a case on this, and I actually dropped it today and it was very scary. I picked it up and it was completely fine, so I may put a case on this in the future, but honestly, this phone just looks so beautiful without a case. I hate covering it up, so That's just my opinion. Let me know down in the comments if you use a case on your phone or not. Really interested to hear it. Another thing I love about the front is that you can swipe through your notifications, which is great because a lot of time I get a lot of spam emails, and then sometimes I get a super important alert that Zeke just went to the Patriots, and I gotta open that up and see if it's true. So I love the fact that you can prioritize your notifications on this front screen. I just love this phone overall because of so much that it can do, especially the whole texting part. I know a lot of people say the keyboard's really small when you text. I don't think so. I use this one-handed, so it's really easy to use the swipe keyboard. Also, you could use the microphone and just talk into it, but I personally use the keyboard because the swipe feature on that keyboard works really, really well, especially for one-handed. Now, the actual size of the screen on this phone is a little bit slimmer compared to something like the S22 Ultra or the iPhone. Phones like that, it's just a little slimmer, but it's not too big of a difference. Like I said, I love using this phone one-handed and just on the go, so it makes it really easy for me to text and things like that. The crease you can't really see too much, and I usually use flex mode on this phone, which means that if I do want to have YouTube playing at the top and something else at the bottom, I definitely have that option. It's just really, really great. Or if I'm laying down and I don't want to have my phone up in the air in my face, I kind of just fold it next to me and kind of like scroll through Instagram. So it's really, really cool. And I mentioned earlier in the video the fact that something I didn't like about the old Z Flip was the fact that the battery died super quick. Now, they did install a new chip in here to where it kind of helps with the battery life a little bit. So compared to before where the battery would die in less than a day, this one on daily use, I wake up about 9 a.m. At 11 or 12, it's at 40%. So I think the battery is a lot better on here. Also, it depends kind of what you're doing. I notice whenever I'm doing directions or whenever I'm taking a lot of videos that the battery tends to die a lot faster. And I ended up driving an hour somewhere, and then the battery life just to use that GPS was around like 10% because it started at 96 and then I got to the place and my battery was at like 87. So took a little bit around 10% just for an hour of driving. So that's one thing that's still kind of a little bad about it, but it is a small phone. So with a small phone comes a smaller battery. So the battery is good. It's not great by any means. Same thing with the camera. The camera is really, really good. It does film in 4K, and I did take a lot of pictures with this camera and filmed with this camera. I'm gonna put a lot of it over there. I went to Comic-Con and ended up using nothing but this phone to take pictures and videos, and the quality was really great. Granted, it's not going to be the best quality you can get. It can't zoom in 100 gajillion times like the Samsung S23 Ultra, but the camera's decent, it looks good, and it does what it has to do. I mean, 4K on this, I think it's still pretty good. I don't think anyone's using 8K anytime soon, and if they are, you need an 8K display for that, and I just don't think we're there yet. So the camera on this is pretty decent. Now, another con I kind of have with this is sometimes this thing gets really, really hot. And I don't mean, oh, a little warm. I'm talking about this thing gets hot. And it's mainly like this top part right here. I realize whenever I'm like watching a lot of videos or doing directions or things like that, this top part gets really, really hot. So I kind of have to close it, let it chill for a little bit, and then it'll cool down within like 5 minutes, and then I use it again and then it's completely fine. But at times this phone does get a little hot. Now, something that's really crazy about this phone is that for everything that it does, it's only $1,000. And me personally, I buy my phone directly off of Samsung. I pre-ordered this one myself. They didn't send it to me. So this is a 100% honest review. So Samsung does have a really good trade-in program. So I ended up turning in my Samsung S22 Ultra. They gave me around $700 and some change. And if you want to split it into payments, you could use Klarna or Apply for their payment plan, and you can do that over whatever course of time you want to do. That is it for the pros and the cons. I know I didn't go over too much. I'll have a more in-depth review later on. These are just little things that I've noticed within the first week of using it. Mainly, this front screen is just fantastic. Like I said, I absolutely love it. And if you're somebody who's thinking about getting a flip and you're a little hesitant or on the fence, this one is the one to get. I completely stand by it when I say now is the time to get a flip or any sort of flip phone, because this right here is a game changer. Not only is there so many things that you can do on the screen, but there's so many things that you can do on the inside. There are so many things that you can do with this phone overall. It's just really great. But if you're someone who just stays in, watches YouTube, TikTok, stay with your slab phone. But if you're somebody who's always on the go, somebody who's just needs a one-handed phone and needs the basics done right to the fullest extent, somebody who just wants to experience the future of cell phones, I highly recommend you get this.